Alrighty, welcome to the last block of day 2 of the SDG Action Zone. I love it, I love it, I love it. It has been an incredible day, I think we can all agree, and we want to close it out really strong with some fantastic speakers who are all under the rubric, Leave No One Behind, Our Planet, Our Home, Our Future. Small topics, right? So, our first speaker will share stories and journeys of climate risks that cross national borders and present a groundbreaking initiative called Adaptation Without Borders. Please welcome the Head of Risk and Resilience from ODI, Rebecca Naden.
Thank you very much, everybody. I want to start my talk today, actually, with a quote from Einstein. So, the world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. This could not be more true in terms of how we need to adapt to the climate crisis. While politicians negotiate and procrastinate on how to respond, we are already most likely locked into about 2 degrees of warming. Just look at the hurricanes in Mozambique and the Bahamas. The consequences are devastating. We need to reimagine how we adapt and build resilience to the climate crisis. Throughout history, humanity has always faced changing threats, risks, and upheavals. But the crisis confronting today's policy, business, and community leaders is that the rate, frequency, and intensity of the climate impacts and the subsequent risks are changing radically. Climate impacts are transformational, shifting socioeconomic, political, environmental, and technological systems, with the potential to radically change societies and alter the status quo. We have a choice, though, if these climate-driven transformations are to be either positive or negative. Yet our current framing is that countries need only be cognizant of climate impacts and adaptation responses within their own borders. But we live in an interconnected and interdependent world. Our human and environmental systems are just that, they're systems. And climate change presents a systems risk. As such, climate risks are transboundary, requiring us to think how we respond through adaptation. So what do we mean by transboundary climate risks? Well, just as people, goods, and services cross borders, so too do the impacts of climate change and our subsequent adaptation responses. A localized flood occurring more frequently and intensely disrupts a global supply chain, which in turn affects consumers thousands of miles away. An adaptation response to increase irrigation by tapping into a transboundary river affects a shared ecosystem and shifts sensitive political dynamics across the region. So let's take one real-world example. Let me take you back to Thailand in 2011. When climate-related flooding hit, there were not only severe domestic consequences, but there were also significant shocks to the supply chains of Japanese firms, which in turn had knock-on impacts to production in Malaysia, Vietnam, and Indonesia, impacting people's livelihoods. Thailand's adaptation response was to curtail rice imports to international markets, which could have led to price increases with severe impacts on food security in many of those rice importing countries, such as Senegal, where now rice accounts for more than a third of calorific intake. This is why transboundary climate risks matter. They matter because countries are telling us they matter. And it's not just 1 or 2 countries who are saying this. There are many, from Bangladesh to Burundi, from Afghanistan to Angola, from Sudan to Somalia, raising issues from shared water resources to displacement. They matter because no one country is immune, and no one country can address these alone. They matter because recognizing and accounting for these risks will be critical for the realization of Agenda 2030 and to meet the global challenge of adaptation as outlined in the Paris Agreement. We need governments, multilateral organizations, donors and financiers to hear this. So let's go back to Einstein for a moment. The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. On multiple levels, actually, humanity has failed to heed this advice. But this is certainly true in terms of our adaptation efforts. And our thinking is still based on outdated ideas. First, adaptation is a failure of mitigation. Second, mitigation happens globally, while adaptation happens locally. Adaptation is still overwhelmingly framed as a national to local concern, implying that its scope and effect remain primarily within national borders. Third, adaptation measures are costly and offer limited return on investment. This thinking needs to change. But if you change how you think about something, it follows that you have to change how you act. Our thinking fundamentally frames who we are as people, how we see the world, and most importantly, the world we want to see. So how does our thinking need to change? Adaptation is not a failure of mitigation. We have to adapt because we're already experiencing at least 1 degree of warming. We need both mitigation and adaptation. For example, low carbon development and transition to low carbon futures have to be climate resilient. Adaptation actions can support economic growth by accounting for and anticipating the impacts of climate change. And most critically, adaptation is required not only at the local level, but as our country's examples show, adaptation efforts are needed across borders. The stakes are so high, yet our current adaptation plans often fail to recognise or account for transboundary risks or our global interdependence. So our call to action today is adaptation without borders. Adaptation measures that are fit for purpose in terms of addressing the lived reality, present and future, of transboundary climate risks, and one that wholeheartedly embraces the principles of do no harm and leave no one behind. And this is why we have launched the Adaptation Without Borders initiative. The plan for the initiative is to create visibility of these issues, gather the evidence to support decision-making, build connections and inspire action. Most importantly, we need to build a coalition of the willing who understand that sovereignty is best protected through strengthening multilateral cooperation and governments. If we ignore and don't address transboundary climate risks, we run the risk of potentially redistributing these vulnerabilities between countries and groups. So let's change our thinking and adapt without borders. Thank you very much.
Let's have another huge hand for Rebecca Naden, who also has, I don't know if you guys heard me the first time, a pretty fantastic title, Head of Risk and Resilience at ODI. We should all have one of those in our organizations and in our lives. We have just a quick minute for a bit of staging, and then we'll be back with our second lightning talk. And talk amongst yourselves in the meantime. You can tell our next lightning talk's coming because there's props being thrown onto the stage. Are you excited? Yeah. Very good. I love you guys. So, our next lightning talk comes from a 19-year-old advocate from Bulgaria who will discuss his 2 gold medal accomplishments at the Special Olympics, his experience speaking at the UNESCO Youth Forum, and his advocacy for the end of the institutionalization of children worldwide. Please welcome Lumos advocate Veliko Velikov. And he will be working with a translator, Child Protection Officer of Lumos, Aneta Teneva. You can cheer for Aneta too.
Окей, да почваме? Окей. Здравейте! За мен всичко започна с едно телевизионно предаване за дома в Могилино, в моята страна. Тогава ми стана много тъжно. Как е възможно така да живеят децата?
Hello, for me everything started when I watched a TV program which told the story of the Mogilino institution in Bulgaria. I was very upset because of the way these children lived. How was this possible?
Научих за правата си на 12 години. Те съм почти на 20. Това е моето 8 годишно пътуване. И аз разбрах, че за да няма нито едно дете извън борда е отговорност на всички нас. Дори тук, в тази зала.
I first learned about my rights when I was 12. I'm almost 20 now. And in my 8-year-long journey, I have realized that the responsibility is ours, so that no child gets left behind.
Повечето деца в институти по света не са истински сираци. Те имат поне един жив родител, който не може да се грижи за детето, по причина, че е беден.
Globally, most children that end up in institutions are semi-orphans. They have at least one living parent who cannot take care of their child because of poverty. These are the most vulnerable children and young people that enter the institutions.
Това са най-уязвимите деца и младежи в институции, които се изоставят по причина в домове. Някои от тях са родени с увреждане. И това е другата голяма причина, за да не живеят в семейството.
Some of them are born with a disability, and this is another key reason to experience life outside of a family.
Когато си беден, гладен, не можеш да си позволиш добри здравни услуги и подкрепа. Повечето семейства не знаят как да се грижат за детето, ако има увреждане, а няма услуги, за да ги подкрепят, за да си го задържат детето.
When you're poor, hungry, you can't afford good health services and medical support. Most families do not know how to take care of their child with a disability, and no services exist that can help them to keep their children home.
Да се спре потока болница-дом.
It is necessary to break the link between hospitals and institutions.
Лекарите са първите специалисти, които подкрепят родителите, да не изоставят децата си.
Doctors are the first specialists that should advise and guide parents not to abandon their children.
Да се помага на тези семейства в отглеждането на детето, ако е с увреждане през целия му живот.
To help these families raise their children throughout their lives, despite their disability.
Децата с увреждане в домове не получават никакво или недобро образование.
Children with disability that live in institutions do not receive good quality education.
А това означава, че нямат бъдеще.
And this means they don't have future.
Те не могат да се справят с живота, да са независими или приети в общността.
They are not ready to cope with life, to be independent or to be included in the community.
Те не са готови да се намерят работа, приятели, да водят независим живот.
They are not ready to find a job, friends, to live a normal, decent life.
И аз говоря за мои приятели, които са живели в домове.
And I'm talking about some of my friends who had the experience of life in an institution.
Това са 8 млади хора, които живеят в защитено жилище в България.
Can we have a photo of these 8 young people?
may not.
These are 8 young people with disability who now live in a sheltered home in Bulgaria.
За мен тези цели ще бъдат изпълнени, ако и тези 8 млади хора усетят, че не са забравени, а приети, както всички други.
Achieving global goals for me means that these young people are included as well, and they are not forbidden at their local places.
Ние сме свързани, а глобалната цел 17 е за партньорство.
We are all connected, and goal 17 is about partnership.
Аз сега ще ви помоля да станем един голям човек, а не да забравим. Едно момиче с тежки увреждания и аутизъм. Тя се казва Соня. Думата човечество така.
A girl with a profound disability and autism, her name is Sonia, explains the word humanity like this.
Това са всички хора заедно, ако ги разгледаме като един голям човек.
Humanity is all people coming together as one big person.
Ние сме свързани, а глобалната цел е 17 за партньорство.
We are all connected, and goal 17 is about partnership.
Аз ще ви помоля сега да станем един голям човек около тези цели, които да постигнем заедно.
I will ask you today to become this one big person and try to achieve all of these big goals.
Опитайте се да се свържете по вашия начин, така че да покажем и на най-уязвимите деца и младежи с увреждания и в домове, където да се намират, че ние ще направим промяната, но не за тях, а с тях.
Try to connect each other now in your own way, so we could show all children and vulnerable young people with disability, no matter where they are, that we will make a change not for, but with them as well.
Благодаря ви.
Thank you.
Побърках.
You could do that outside.
Okay.
Let's have another huge round of applause for Veliko Velikov from Lumos. And I told him we'll meet him outside for the parachuting. So with that, allow me to close day 2 of the hashtag SDG Action Zone. You know what you have to do. This has been an amazing day, and it's incredible to me that we aren't even halfway through the week. So please keep those hashtags doing the things that they're doing. It's hashtag Act4SDGs, hashtag 4People4Planet, and hashtag SDG Action Zone. And we had over 100 million impressions across all 3 of those. Actually, over 200 million impressions across all of those already. So we can't wait to keep it going, and I expect to see all of you. Tomorrow I'm going to make you raise your hands, so you better all have posted. And I'll commit to that too, because I haven't at all, because I've been up here. We are starting our program tomorrow at 8 a.m., and we're going to look at how sport can contribute to advancing the SDGs. So it's going to be another exciting, kind of unexpected conversation here at the Zone, and we want you all to be here and be part of it. We also have an exciting announcement tomorrow night. You've heard some people throw this around, but we will officially be hearing about the Decade of Action tomorrow. So be here for that. And let's say goodbye to our live stream audience, please. Give them a big cheer. They've been amazing at UN Web TV. We will see you guys tomorrow. And with that, we love you. We can't wait to keep doing this with you. And we have to be out of here by 5:30, so please lovingly clear the room. And we'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Bye-bye. And meet Velikov outside because he'll have his parachute.